Hey, it's Joe from Home Studio Corner. If you're like me and you like a big, thick-sounding snare drum in your mixes, I'm going to show you 3 EQ moves that can get you a lot closer from where you are right now with the raw tracks. It needs to be said, the drums need to sound thick already. So the snare drum in the room needs to sound thick, and then obviously the recording techniques that you use to capture the snare drum need to produce some sort of a thick-sounding snare drum to begin with if we're wanting to have a big, thick snare drum in the mix. One quick trick, if you're recording, try taking the microphone and instead of putting it right over the edge of the drum, try moving it up a little bit, give him maybe a fist's worth of space between the microphone and the drum, and then try moving the mic out over the edge of the drum a little bit more. So instead of pointing right at the edge where all the ring happens, it's pointed more towards the middle where a lot of the thickness is. That alone will help your snare drum sounds and tom drum sounds sound a lot thicker and fuller. But once it's recorded, what are some EQ things that you can do to get a thicker, fatter snare drum? I'm going to show you 3 of those right now. So here are the raw tracks right here in front of me. Let's take a listen. Already sounding good, but I want to go take a few more steps into Thickville. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the EQ that's on my drum bus. This is the EQ that's affecting all my drums. And I'm just going to do a pretty standard, typical EQ thing here in 2 moves. The first, I'm going to take some low mids and bring it out. 400 hertz is the devil when it comes to drums. I'm going to find the devil and remove him. Let's do that. Coo. More. Coo. In that range. Not helpful at all. Watch what happens when I pull it down. Already a little bit tighter. Then I'll take a low shelf and just boost a couple dB, everything below 200 or so. That obviously gets the kick drum, but it's getting a little of the snare as well. Snare feels a little bit thicker. That's step 1. Step 2, if we listen to the overall mix again, listen for the room sound of that room mic that I recorded up in the stairwell. Here's that room by itself. There's a frequency there that just isn't helping. I can still hear it in the mix, and it's preventing me from hearing that big, thick drum sound that I want. And it's the same as that kind of 400 hertz range. It's this boxiness. It sounds like it's literally in a box, and I need to get rid of that. So here's the EQ we're going to do on the room mic. Coo. Right there, we're going to take that down. So now that sounds more like the snare drum that I want. Here's before. Here's after. So some of that mid-range stuff that's not really helping is gone. And here's our overall mix now. We can bring the kick drum down a little bit now. Next, we're going to take our 2 snare drum tracks. So I've got a snare top and a snare bottom. I'm going to bus them over to their own bus so I can EQ them together. And here's the last EQ move that I'm going to do. I'm going to come in and just listen to it by itself for just the slightest of moments and make some decisions here. So we can see, even looking at the frequency spectrum analyzer, there's something happening just below 200. Let's go find out what that is. Now that's a fairly thick frequency. That's right at 100, right at 200. But I want it to be a little lower and deeper. So I'm going to take that frequency there, the 200, I'm going to bring it down a little bit so it's more balanced with the rest of the snare sound. Now I'm going to take a low frequency shelf. Let's get another shelf out here. And I'm going to boost the overall low end on the snare drum. It's going to be boosting that frequency we just cut, but because we cut it, we're now boosting a more balanced sound. And here's what that's going to sound like. By itself, it's kind of wimpy, but you add it in with the rest of the kit, which is the only thing that matters, and you've got this. big and full. It's got a little bit of ring to it, which I personally like. If you don't like the ring, you can go notch out those frequencies as well. So is that working? Is that a thicker snare drum sound? Well, I hope so. Let's go find out. I'm going to use this little power button right here to turn the plugins on and off. So I'll hit play. There'll be nothing. I'll hit play and the plugins will be playing. Then when I click it, they'll be off. And I click it on, they'll be on. All the plugins. So we can hear the difference that we're making. And let's check that out now. It's funny, in trying to get a thicker snare drum, we've actually made the kick drum thicker as well, and it actually sounds way more mixed than it is. That is 3 EQs, people, 0 compressors. Now, compression will add to this and even give us an even thicker, fuller sound, but with just these 3 EQs, we're able to pretty dramatically transform the drum mix. If you find yourself using EQs on every single channel and lots of them, let this be an example. Maybe you only need 2 or 3 to get the sound that you want and leave the rest of it alone because it doesn't need to be messed with. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked it or you have an opinion, leave a comment below. And if you want more mixing tips, you should check out my mixing guide. It's called 5-Step Mix. Check it out at 5stepmix.com. It's really short, it's really free, and it'll help you develop a process for your mixing that'll get you better results in less time. All right, that's it for me. See you later.